What motivated you to get active and start putting your voice out?
It was when they closed the schools. Gavin Newsom closed the schools, but allowed the rioting and looting in the streets.
California GOP delegate and LA GOP Central Committee member
Elizabeth Barcohana.
What's your view on what the Republican Party needs to do to win statewide?
We do have the numbers in a lot of these elections. There is a mentality problem.
Let's talk about the issues that you're most passionate about right now.
Okay. Voter registration.
Voter registration. So what?
The most unsexy, least
It
interesting.
is the most unsexy, but I love it's very nerdy and wonky. To your credit, that you took that up.
Very nerdy.
What do California citizens and California Republicans misunderstand about voter registration?
Okay, so the biggest pushback I get is voter registration doesn't, well, the biggest pushback is cheating. So let's take that off the table for a second, because hopefully we'll get a voter ID initiative on the ballot in 2026 and these things will be behind us. But again, like I said,
That's a tall hill right there.
well, if it gets on, yes, but if it gets on the ballot and there's going to be a lot of resources getting put into that in California, if it does get on the ballot, it does have the support
I believe it does. You're
to
right.
pass. Okay, so putting that aside for a second, the biggest pushback is, or misunderstanding or misconception is that if I ultimately vote Republican, why does it matter if I register as Republican as well?
So to answer the question.
Okay. There's many answers. Number one is the political strategists who determine who's going to run for office, like what kind of talent you're going to attract in your district to run, what kind of money is going to come into that campaign, what kind of volunteer base you're going to be able to attract.
See where you're going.
All of that is determined, like not only, but the number one most important data point is what the voter registration is in that district, and that data point is determined by a very simple mathematical formula, which is the difference between the number of registered Democrats and the number of registered Republicans. Independents are not considered.
Right.
Okay, so if you're an independent, you're basically marginalizing yourself and reinforcing the status quo.
Mhm.
So if you're a registered independent but you vote Republican, you're actually working against your self-interest. Okay, so you want to, in order to get the attention, like I was saying, the resources, the candidate talent, the attention, you have to shrink that number down to a difference of, let's say, 15 points or less. A Democrat registration advantage of about 15 points can be overcome by Republicans, even though they don't have the registration advantage in the election, because our turnout enthusiasm is usually higher.
Can I ask you one thing just to clarify for listeners and viewers? You're saying basically that when the party and the strategists and the managers do the math, they look county by county, they're looking at counties with a registered Republican
Or districts.
or district with a
Mhm.
registered Republican base that is big enough to start with a running start to take on the Democrats.
Correct.
Okay. Reason number one. What's reason number two?
Reason number two is, okay, once you get to the campaign and the get out the vote infrastructure, these are people who are either harvesting ballots or making the voter guides and knocking on your doors or the phone calls. It makes that process more efficient if they know who to contact.
Where to go.
If they know where to go, exactly. Or if you're let's say you're registered independent, but you're going to vote and you're going to vote Republican. They're wasting money trying to find you,
Right.
when they could be spending that money finding a lower propensity voter and getting that person to turn out, which is the explanation for how it drives the marginal increase in the Republican turnout
Interesting.
during the election.
Can I cut to a question? And I want to go to one other topic that's most animating you. So you're into education on this topic, right? Getting NPPs or Democrats for that matter,
Yeah.
I'm a Reform Democrat,
Yeah.
or a former Democrat, I should say, to register Republican. How do you execute that in a district or a county to move people to register Republican? What's the strategy?
Okay, so my strategy is new. I don't know anybody else that's come up with the same kind of strategy as me. What has been before is people are going after unregistered voters who you think are conservatives. So these are like truck owners, gun owners, you know,
Right.
they profile you
Okay.
and they see that you're not registered and they go after you and try and register you. The not problem, but
Is that effective?
yes, but it's slow. And also, you may be registering people who are not Republicans necessarily, and you also don't have a turnout. There's no turnout like mechanism.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Usually, it's like they're registering, and then I've heard people say it's not my job to turn them out. It's the campaign's job, or it's the party's job, or like it's somebody else's job. That's a problem. That's not effective if you've registered them, but you are not following up to make sure they turn out. That was all wasted effort.
Mhm.
The way I think about it is different. So I have Project 460 KLA, and the idea is that I identified the people who voted for Donald Trump in 2024 who are not registered Republicans.
Mhm.
And I'm targeting them because I don't have to flip them on the issues because Donald Trump already did that hard work for me. Sorry.
I like it. She's used to being on camera. We've got a garbage truck coming by. Elizabeth, she's obviously very practiced. Okay, go.
I don't have to worry as much about turning them out
Mhm.
because I know that they're voters.
Right. Super smart.
Thank you.
How did you? So I get. How did you come to this strategy? Was it kind of like you dipped yourself in the issues and it kind of came to you, or how did you decide on it?
Yeah,
It's
no,
kind of like
it came. It was a light bulb moment. It was it happened live on X. I don't know
Really?
if you know. Yeah, you may not know this. So
No.
it happened live on X. Where like, okay, so I knew because I was watching Republican turnout
Right.
during the election, and I knew that it was kind of disappointing. I mean, it wasn't awful, but it wasn't good.
No.
So I knew once I saw the number of how many people in LA County voted for Donald Trump, it was 1.1 million. And I know that there are about 1.1 million registered Republicans in LA County. So when you compare those two numbers, it's not really remarkable because it's reflective of what you would expect in registration.
Right.
But I knew that our turnout was like 70 something percent or something. So I knew that there was a big number of people, hundreds of thousands of voters who are not Republicans that are included in that 1.1 million number. So I was doing this, it was just like you can see it on X, it's like a back and forth exchange between me and the guy who does the data at California GOP. And I was asking him for all these numbers and I was doing the math like in real time. And then at the end of it, I was like, okay, my New Year's resolution, because it was like December 31st, where I think this exchange was happening. So my New Year's resolution is to register these, 460,000 Trump voters as Republicans. And that post went viral and Scott Pressler commented on it and Elon Musk commented on it. And like,
big time.
that's really what.
Good for you.
Thank
That's
you.
a great story.